Hey, how's it going? You find me in one of my most favorite cities. It is February 2022, and this capital of this country seems to be in the headlines almost every day at the moment. Why is it in the headlines? Well, I think I'm stating the obvious. I think you probably know that, and I think anyone watching this channel will probably know that. The globalists, the mainstream media, they're beating the drums of war. The mainstream media would like nothing more for a war to kick off because it would cause clicks, it would make people watch the news again. The news loves a good war.
We think about 130,000 now, and as I say, growing.
CNN's ratings went through the roof during the first Gulf War and the second Gulf War. Right now, CNN's ratings are an all-time low. Mark Dice gets more views.
As you said, Kate Zucker's been a larger-than-life figure at this news organization for nearly a decade, a pioneering figure, and now his resignation is stunning this newsroom and the news industry.
Yeah, it's stunning everyone at CNN, all right.
These fine workers have spent the day clearing St. Sophia's Square, because right behind me is St. Sophia Cathedral. St. Sophia, built in the 11th century, before William the Conqueror conquered England. This was built, I think, around about 1018. It just shows how this nation has been exceptional for 1,000 years. But it also celebrates the Russian-Ukrainian alliance. Without Russia, there would be no Ukraine, and without Ukraine, there would be no Russia. And yet right now, we are having to stomach the thoughts that a nation that was once a brother and a sister to each other is now potentially at war. It's a little bit windy. I think one of the reasons this square has just been cleared of all of its snow, last night there was a lot of snow on this square, it's not due to the efficiency of the people, although they work their asses off here in Ukraine. It's because my illustrious Prime Minister is within walking distance right now of this beautiful square, St. Sophia's Square. There's a large police presence over this way, and there's a large police presence over this way. Right now, the United Kingdom and Poland and Ukraine are in talks to have a military alliance. Now, you would think this possibly would be a good idea because it creates a bit of safety, it creates a sort of safety amongst nations, but I think, if anything, and I think St. Sophia would probably be able to acknowledge this because St. Sophia was the saint of wisdom, I don't think there's much wisdom to this other than basically prodding the bear. You don't prod the bear, especially when the bear is in the corner. The bear has got plenty of space. Maybe you can prod the bear and tell it to go away. But we've surrounded the bear over the years. The NATO countries have surrounded the bear.
NATO expansion all the way from the founding of the Washington Treaty in 1949 up until 2020 when North Macedonia, the latest member, joined.
Estonia is now part of the NATO alliance. US soldiers, British soldiers, you name it, are congregating in Estonia right now on the border of Russia. It would agitate me. Imagine if the Russians started congregating in Mexico or congregating in Canada. The Americans wouldn't like that. And I think this man certainly wouldn't like it. This is Bogdan Khmelnitsky, and we've spoken about Khmelnitsky many times on my channel. If you're not familiar with him, I urge you to go look at some of my 24 hours or 48 hours in this city, and you'll see this great man who basically stands proud in St. Sophia's Square. He was a believer in nations, he was a believer in the people, he was a believer in the Cossacks, and he believed in not taking any crap. And my guess is, if there was a surrounding enemy trying to take his land right now, he probably would be putting up a fight. But I've always been of the philosophy that I believe what happened in 2014 was orchestrated, and this is where the downvotes will come. But I've always believed 2014, the Maidan Revolution, was orchestrated by foreign NGOs, it was orchestrated by the CIA, and it was orchestrated to destabilize a nation so that they could get a leader into power that was pro-EU, that was pro-globalism, and that was not on the Russian side.
I didn't cause it. I'm a good boy. Bullshit.
And they did it successfully. They did it immensely successfully. Ukraine since then has been very much siding with the European Union. Ukraine since then has been siding with the global order. And Ukraine since then has been considered to be the greatest enemy to what was once their greatest ally. The Russians used to be Ukraine's greatest ally. Like I say, without Ukraine there would be no Russia, and without Russia there would be no Ukraine. I'm just going to cross here. It's all a little bit quiet. And the reason it is quiet is because, one, we've got the rabid mainstream media pushing for war, so it's keeping the tourists away. What would normally be a very busy spot, despite it being February, people are staying away from the country. Prices have dropped in terms of the hotel prices. Prices have dropped in terms of the apartment prices. One of the most expensive hotels in Kyiv, the Hyatt Regency, I think, has recently dropped its prices. Although it's still not cheap. You're still going to be looking to pay £200 per night there. Nice hotel, but very poor value. If you've got the money, why not? The whole thing angers me. And it really angers me how the people of Ukraine are being used by the NATO nations. The people of Ukraine are being used by the European Union. They're being used by the NATO alliance. War Inc. is the only person that's going to benefit from a war with Russia. It certainly won't be the people of Ukraine. War Inc. is the only beneficiary of war with Russia and Ukraine. The reason I think the beating drum is being beat by the mainstream media is because nobody's paying attention to China. The Chinese communists control the Biden administration. The Chinese communists have their agents spread throughout the world, in every institution, in every government, every Western government, that's for sure. And they would love nothing more than the US and the West to get involved in a war with Russia. Why? If the West is at war with Russia, it enables them to be distracted, causes a huge distraction. It enables China to take Taiwan back. It enables China to possibly flank around the United States of America, almost like a Japanese Pearl Harbor style, and for the Chinese to potentially take on the entire world. It will ally with the Russians at first, and then World War III will start. Now, this doesn't need to happen. World War III does not need to ever happen. But the way our corrupt media and our corrupt Western politicians, that's Boris Johnson, that's Joe Biden, that's Macron, that's all of them, are pushing the bear in the corner, prodding it to start a war, start an invasion. But I don't think Putin's that stupid. I don't think Putin is going to invade Ukraine. That's why I can happily walk around here. I've got no concerns that Putin will do anything. The only way that's going to happen will be if there's a false flag event. A false flag event could be the downing of a military jet near the Russian border. A false flag event could be a bombing that would happen somewhere, potentially in the capital of Ukraine, Kyiv. A false flag event could happen at any stage, and that is the only way in my mind that any war will happen, because Putin does not have any interest in invading Ukraine, despite what your Western leaders are suggesting, and despite the fact that many in the comments will say, hey, Russia's been at war with Ukraine since 2014. Well, yes and no. They are Russian separatists, they are pro-Russian freedom fighters. It's not black and white. Those people in the East have been egged on by the CIA, those people in the East have been egged on by the European Union, and those people on the East side of the front line have, yes, been encouraged by Russia and have been financed by Russia. But it's not as black and white as we might seem. Countries separate all the time. Look at Moldova with the Transnistria war. What was that war, you might ask? Well, the Transnistria war was the separation of the eastern side of Moldova. I think it's only 2 or 3 nations now recognize Transnistria as a nation, but it is a real nation. If you're not sure about what Transnistria is, I made a video a long time ago asking if it was a real nation. Check out the link. But as you can see, the streets are quiet in Kyiv. The streets are really quiet. It's not because everyone's busy working. Some people are. But it's mostly because people have stayed away from the capital. So the center, which would normally be full of visitors, people from other countries, they're just not here. From my perspective, it's kind of nice. I'm not a fan of walking past hundreds and hundreds of tourists all the time. But it's also slightly depressing because it's going to be killing the economy. It's going to be killing small businesses. businesses that have already suffered because of stupid lockdowns that were imposed by your leaders and rather than because of a virus. And it's sad because in 2021, Ukraine was very, very busy. The streets of Kyiv were super busy. But in the early months of 2022, the streets are empty. Well, they're not empty, just less busy. I don't have any of the answers, or even some of the answers. I have just a view on this, and I have a view that is very contrarian to a lot of views on YouTube. I have a view that will possibly get many dislikes anytime I give my views. But I don't want to see a war between Russia and Ukraine. I don't want to see brothers and sisters go to war. I don't want to see any of that happening. But if you turn on the mainstream media, you're going to believe that it might happen. And I think that's incredibly sad. Anyway, I just wanted to sort of do a quick update from me being in Ukraine to sort of give you an idea that things are quiet. Yes, things are quiet because it's cold. It's about -1 today. Things are quiet because Ukraine is being used. Ukraine is being used by our corrupt Western leaders for their bidding. And the only people that suffer when countries get used are the people of those countries. Well, I think it's very sad. Probably in the next news cycle, within a month or so, they're going to move on to something else because Ukraine doesn't get the clicks that they need and it doesn't get the views that they need. So they will probably start to move on at some stage. We shall only find out. Anyway, if you have any questions or you have any comments, please do leave a comment below or send me a direct message. I'm always happy to answer them. And if you disagree, come on, reply back, but reply back nicely. We don't want to start a war on YouTube, and we certainly don't want to start a war in this part of the world. Dialogue is the best thing. Propaganda is all around us. This is just me voicing my quick view on Kyiv, and I don't want Kyiv looking like this. This is just clearly going to be developed soon. I want Kyiv looking like the beautiful buildings that you saw at the start of the video, and I want Kyiv looking like some of the new buildings like these buildings over here. Well, probably not even a good representation, because this is one of the oldest streets of Kyiv, which heads down to the Maidan Square. But anyway, if you like this content, click that like button, click the subscribe button, and hopefully, I'll see you in the next video.